You're listening to the Multifamily Journey Podcast. In this show, you'll hear industry experts share tips of success and failure from their real estate investing journeys. You'll get a transparent look behind the curtain while you learn to fulfill the lifestyle you want to live and achieve your wealth goals. Get ready for the journey to financial freedom through investing in multifamily real estate. Here's your host, Blake Dailey.
Welcome back for another episode of the Multifamily Journey Podcast. I've been really excited to release this episode because I think it's the kind of show that everyone needs to hear, especially right now. I had Travis Hill on the show, and he brings such a unique perspective that everyone, whether in real estate or any area of life, can really benefit from. So Travis was once a real estate millionaire. He made what appeared to be at the time several great new build house hack purchases back before the '08 real estate crash. He then lost it all. Talk about a learning lesson, right? We'll dig into that, where he went wrong and what he learned. Then, of all the things, he got cancer. People think the COVID pandemic was bad, but what about losing $1 million and then getting cancer? But thankfully, Travis has made a full recovery and now is in remission. And he has taken the steps to rebuild his portfolio by buying properties again, investing in multifamily syndications, and doing private money. He's building back his fortune and using the lessons learned from it all, from losing it all, and almost losing his life. The perspective gained from this episode is amazing. And I think it'll help in not just real estate, but life and gratitude and thankfulness and really just thinking about what you have right now and how good it really is and what you can do with what you have. So with that, let's get in the show with Travis Hill. All right, Travis, welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
I'm well. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, good. It's great to have you. Well, why don't you start by giving people a little bit about your background and your story?
Okay. Was living in Vegas. And after college, I went there and realized that real estate was kind of cool. And so what I would do is I would buy the second biggest house on the cul-de-sac in phase one, and then house hack it back when house hacking, before the internet, and would ride the appreciation in the early 2000s. And we got by, when I would get to phase 6 or phase 7, I'd go ahead and refinance that house, rent out that house totally, and then go and duplicate that process. And got to about 6-7 houses and realized that was my retirement plan. I was like, yes, this is great. I was working for a civil engineering firm at the time and just thought life was wonderful. And continued that process, joined the Marine Corps in 2003, and then deployed a couple of times, deployed 4 times actually. And then by 2011, like every other great American, decided to enjoy the real estate Great Recession and accumulated about $1.2 million in worth there with the homes. And then by 2011, that was gone, completely wiped out, short sold, and we started over.
Wow. Yeah. There's a lot there, right? That's a good story. So somebody that's already made it and then unfortunately had the fall because of what happened in 2011. Definitely want to talk about that because there's a lot of talk going on right now. We're going into the next recession, yada, yada, yada. So this is very timely, I think, and this will be of good value to people. So became a millionaire before the crash because of real estate. You were house hacking, building equity in these homes, refinancing and doing really well. But what was it about your portfolio at that time that made you lose it all? I know the market was terrible and the equity was sinking, but what was kind of the financial backbone that kind of...
Well, they were all single family homes, and it's easy to be like so focused on your ants on the bark of your trees that you don't see the forest fire going around you. And that's kind of what it was, is I was just focused on finding renters, getting homes. And in Vegas during their, early 2000s, all up to 2010, 2011, I should say before 2008, Vegas was cranking. So houses were going, equity was going up, and it was just a matter of, not seeing the forest fire for the trees that I was focusing on.
Yeah, that's you definitely don't want to be a ostrich with your head in the sand with the market forces around you. And we're kind of seeing that again right now with Vegas. Like that's always a market that takes a recession hard, but just because of the fundamentals of that market's very service worker oriented, very, very blue collar, that market usually takes it the worst in downturns. So I guess what lessons did you learn there in in that time period to avoid losing it again, like now that you're building back up?
So I learned that you need to keep your head on a swivel a little bit more. In the Marine Corps, you call it situational awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you occasionally may look at reports and read some analysts and, look and listen and read about other things that are going on. And, maybe the bond market every now and then to kind of see and learn about the yield and learn about supply, and you learn about the days on the market and interest rates and, what the Fed is doing. So it kind of really opened my aperture of not just solely looking at houses or investment properties, but understanding the whole entire, or at least be comfortable understanding and learning more about the finance world.
Yeah, that's really good, because I think it sounds like what you learned there is like buying houses isn't that hard, right? You can go through the process and through the transaction and close on a house, but there's a lot more that goes into it as you begin to build a portfolio, and then that's what you're relying on for your retirement or whatever. Like, yes, if you want to have a retirement account, you can just throw it in a 401k or throw it in a mutual fund. But when you're dealing with your own houses and your own portfolio, right, you want to know what's driving all that equity that you just gained. Like, what's the cause of that? So if you refinance it all out to go buy the next one, what kind of position did you just put yourself in? So all those things are important. And then I think another lesson in there is also safe leverage too, right? It seems like maybe with all the refinances at the time, maybe that was too much. I don't know. What do you remember what percent all those were leveraged? Did you go the whole 100% like most people did back in the day?
Oh yeah. Like I would,
Okay.
Because the phase releases were, oh, hey, every new phase release was a 10 grand, 15 grand increase. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'd get phase one. Awesome. And because everything is a cookie cutter type, everybody goes into a plot, pictures your 4 homes the way they do it on that way they were starting to do it. Now it was just very easy. It was, it didn't take a rocket scientist, and there was no bigger pockets or anything else. It was like, oh, hey, here's a forum on how to invest in mass communities. So,
yep.
So it was very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's good lessons learned. Obviously, you don't want to learn it the hard way, but as you're building up now, again, trying to do the same thing over, but in a different way, you're learning don't do the 100% leverage and all that kind of stuff. So no, that's really good stuff. So I know throughout all this that we're kind of speaking on the down stuff at the beginning here, but I know at some point colon cancer came into play. So can you talk about that and, where that, what role that played in your journey?
Sure. So I was stationed in Okinawa in 2000, got there in 2017, and January of 2019, I was diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer, and then spent all of 2019 and about 5 months of 2020 recovering chemo, radiation, and various surgeries, different that. So started I'm currently in my surveillance process, the 5 years of colonoscopies and CT scans and all that stuff. And like any good life event, right, you kind of reevaluate and assess and try to figure out exactly what is important to you. And fortunately, being in the Marine Corps did a fantastic job, and Navy medicine got it right, maybe once, that I was allowed to be a patient. Wasn't in charge of Marines. I didn't have to report. It was just like, hey, you go be a patient and recover. And that time to be with my family and to focus on us and to have wonderful lessons in resiliency and love and foresight, and just really reinforced why and how real estate allowed me to create that freedom of time. And the freedom of time was what I realized is what was most important to me, because that allowed me to, want to be with my family and create those memories while I'm here and while I possibly couldn't be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. And not the cancer part whatsoever, but what came from that, right? I think there's a lot of good lessons that maybe you never have that light bulb moment like you did, going through all that. And of course you never want to have that, but man, the stuff that comes out of it, like you're saying, focusing on your family and realizing that that's going to lead you down the path to spending more time with them and build your real estate portfolio back up so that when you retire from the Marine Corps and just a few years now, it's not far away. So when that happens, man, you got the most important thing, and the family all around you. And I think the same thing happened with my father-in-law. He had colon cancer as well, and thankfully he's back in the remission period in the 5 years of just observation. But yeah, beat it the same way. So I can say you definitely don't look like somebody that just had colon cancer. You look like somebody that just ran like 15 Ironmans and
Thanks, man.
Came out looking good. But no, that's great. The resiliency from that story is awesome. So glad you made it through this so we can have this conversation and people can get those kind of lessons without having to go through that, right? And get insight into your world and just how it's helped you grow and all the things that come from that. So I kind of want to get into that now, so that you started out a millionaire off of real estate, lost it all, got colon cancer. Now you're building up. Now you've got those lessons, got all that experience behind you. So how are you starting to rebuild, and what steps are you taking now to, continue to rebuild your portfolio?
Yeah. So having learned that, all my eggs in one basket of single family homes, that's awesome. But I also realized that there's so much out there. And, because of bigger pockets, because of the internet, because of YouTube, man, there is so much information, almost to the point that there's too much information. And, I started off with being active duty and being stationed here in California. It's the price point's a little bit different. And there's it's not the easiest to try to get in. I live in San Clemente. So it's like, hey, people, I tell my kids all the time when we're at the beach, I'm like, people save an entire year to come here for a week. I said, so always be appreciative of the fact that we get to walk to the beach where we live. So never, ever forget that. And we don't, because we're super lucky to live where we live and in location. But, started off with a turnkey company and acquired some properties there. And I know that turnkey gets a lot of bad rap, at least from the single family aspect of it. But the turnkey that I'm fortunate to work with is fantastic. I'm cash flowing like $500 or $600 a month. My cash on cash ROI is over 15% on each property. And
yeah, those are good numbers.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. Like it's just like fantastic numbers, like fantastic. I bought a property and for $120,000. It's the markets in the Midwest. I bought a property for $120,000. It appraised for $140,000. And I'm getting $13.95 for rent. So
yeah, beating the 1% rule right there, and cash flowing really strong. So that's good. Yeah. Is that with Stu's company?
It is Storehouse 310.
Yeah, very nice. Yeah, that's our buddy Stu. He's also in our mastermind. Has a great turnkey company, and everything I've heard from you and I think Marcus, he was on the podcast, also invest with Stu, and there's one other guy. All good things. So yeah, I think like you're saying, turnkey does get a lot of bad rap. And can you explain turnkey just for people that may not know?
Sure. So turnkey is the Storehouse 310 will find a property, they rehab it, and then they sell it to you pretty much at market value. And some people are like, well, that's not real estate investing. Well, it is for me. It allows me to have cash flow every month, and you just buy it as any other property, and you buy it from them, and then they continue to roll forward and move forward, and you do too. And it's a testament to Storehouse, because their wait list was like 4 months, and now it's over a year, in pretty much a year. They've really, really grown, and Sue and David are fantastic dudes, and they have really set the bar as far as what a turnkey company should be, how they interact, how they communicate. So
yeah, they're killing it. Like I looked into turnkey at one point and then ended up deciding against it because of the bad things I've heard. And then since meeting Stu last year and getting into the mastermind, I've heard nothing but good things from them. And usually I think the problems come from when they when normal turnkey companies rehab, they'll kind of do it up to a point, or when they put the property management in place. It's like, it's not ours anymore kind of thing. And, with Stu's company, they really take ownership of it, which is, really good. They rehab well, which allows you, the investor, to see those high returns and then have just the peace of mind that it came from a good company, that it was rehabbed right, and that you're, just dealing with good guys. So that's definitely something to look into, right? If you want to be passive in a sense, because like you're saying, it takes out the upfront work of doing the rehab and everything. Of course there's property manager, but you have to do some ongoing things once the property's up and running. But it's a fairly hands off. I'm sure you could speak to that, pretty hands off and passive way to do it, but continue to build your wealth, right? You close with 20,000 of equity and 500 a month cash flow. That's pretty dang good.
Yeah, and from Robin to the lenders they work with, to the property managers, guaranteed Joey Abdul, guaranteed rate, smart asset on the PM side. Their process is solid, and their relationship, because of what Stu and David wanted to see initially, because I think of what happened to David in the turnkey. They are more important, or it's more important to them to have a relationship with somebody than it is, just trying to make a dollar. So
yep, I agree 100%. Those guys are just, I don't know, man. They just got really high integrity, and you just sense that when you talk to them. And I kind of look up to Stu a lot and just how he runs his company. I've never just talked to David one-on-one, but been on calls with him too. And I try to run like my part of my syndication group like they do, right? Just very relationship focused, because after seeing the success they've had, and just they're awesome guys with awesome company. So I'm like, man, how do I take that and emulate it into multifamily? So that's some really good stuff. So let's talk about, I guess, the mindset needed to go from where you were to how you are now. What kind of mindset is required, from your perspective, to, go from losing your first fortune to battling colon cancer, and now to kind of starting over and, starting investing again, buying more properties? What's the mindset like there? Because I think that's really important for people.
I think it is really important. It doesn't take, a tragic or a major life event to get you to think about this stuff, right? Technology has allowed everybody to be a real estate investor. And it doesn't have to be, and everybody thinks, it's so traditional, right? Like, oh, I got to save up my money, and I got to put my money in, and then I got to put my 25% and make sure my credit score is good, and have reserves and be qualified. And there's so many things out there nowadays, right? Like, yes, I buy a turnkey property. Yes, I'm an out-of-state investor, but I also am able to private lend. I'm a LP on a syndication on a 120 unit apartment complex in Texas. Like, I didn't know that existed. Like, how fantastic is that? And I'm able to do that all through because of technology. I'm an equity player in 110 acres in Arizona. I get mailbox money on that. Like, that's another opportunity. There's so many different ways that you can use your money and, use it effectively, that you get a immediate return. I was talking to somebody the other day when I was on the jiu-jitsu mats, and he's like, yeah, I've got this money, and I'm just going to, put it in the stock market, and really, because I want to be done investing by the time I'm in 15 years, by the time I'm 40. And I'm like, but you got to wait 19 and a half years before you can pull that out. Like, why would you want to wait that long if you want to be completely financially free by that time? It's like,
it's gonna be a hard 19 years if he's retired before he's retired.
Exactly. I'm like, so have you thought about real estate? I said, there's opportunities, there's private money, there's hard, you can private lend, you can hard money lend, you can set up a total, an entire thing, flipping, and the BRRRR method. There's so many things, different ways that you can use your money, and you can be as active as you want, you can be as passive as you want. Mobile home parks, it is just storage units. there's so many opportunities to maximize the investing experience of real estate. And your mindset, in the Marine Corps, we talk about, and maybe in the Air Force, like maybe.
Oh, where's this gonna go? Let's hear it.
Go, right? A Marine and an Air Force guy talking about real estate. That's the only place it can happen.
Yep.
But you just have a bias for action, right? Like, you have to say, okay, I understand this. I've got some understanding, and I'm comfortable with the knowledge that I have, and now I got to move forward. And going through cancer and realizing that I had to make the decision every single day when I woke up that I was either going to feed a good dog, I was going to feed a bad dog. And if that meant, because I had a responsibility as a husband, I had a responsibility as a father, and also I had a responsibility as a Marine officer to like set the example, right? I had to establish what my day was going to be. And it's very easy to be reactive and situation focused, people focused, feelings focused, circumstances focused, instead of being proactive and saying, all right, yep, this sucks that I'm in a situation, however, right? What can I do to improve it? For example, I had an ileostomy bag because of the location of the tumor, I had an ileostomy bag for 8 months throughout the process. And the part that sticks out of your belly, right, is your intestine. Well, it's called a stoma. Well, I named my stoma. His name was Eugene, right? So, the family and I would have family prayer. And because my youngest son loves the Waltons, at the end of every show, it's like, good night, Jim Bob, good night, Mom, good night, Dad, and everybody, right? Good night, Ellie. And so we would say family prayer, everybody gives kisses, and then it's like, good night, Mom and Dad, good night, Eugene. And so they would call Eugene, right? And my wife and I made it fun that, we're no longer monogamous because we've got Eugene hanging out with us every night, right? So we just try to create an atmosphere of like, hey, this is different. This is our new normal, but what can we do to make it acceptable?
Yeah, right? not playing the victim role and really taking, grabbing the bull by the horns and saying, all right, we're going to get through this.
Yeah. And the opportunity, because I was just told to recover, I was able to volunteer with like the VA summer clinic, and I was able to volunteer with, different surf organizations like One More Wave and Amp Surf that give back. And, they use the ocean and ocean therapy as a way to help with TBIs and PTSDs for veterans. And when you go there and you're like, man, my feet are burning, I can't drink cold because of the chemo and the radiation's freaking got my insides all smoked up. But I'm able to walk because that guy in a wheelchair has 3 missing limbs, or, cerebral palsy, or, whatever it is that doesn't make them, as society would say, normal. Right. But man, I think I'm okay. Or you go to a cancer luncheon and you see, you meet a kid that's 21 years old and he has like bone cancer, or he has like lymphoma. And you're like, yeah, I think my stage 3 cancer is okay. Like I'm happy to have that.
Yeah.
And it keeps everything in perspective, right? Obviously I live in San Clemente. It's a wonderful surf town, right? And love to do dawn patrol. And when you're sitting in the ocean, and you get balled up by a nice wave when the swell comes in, like it's hard to feel cocky about yourself, and so there's a lot of humility that goes with surfing. There's humility that goes with jiu-jitsu, and you're just taking ownership of the situation, ownership of what you can influence and what you can't. In the Marine Corps, you have your critical path. And because you have a critical path, that's what I need to do. Okay, roger that. That's what I'm going to do. And then you can take away the emotion. You can take away all the feeling. You can take away the stuff that doesn't allow you to make conscious, logical decisions. Because when you're emotional, you can't make decisions, right? And you have to learn to separate your emotions from your mental. And it was really good to teach that over and over and over again to my kids, or let them see, like, yeah, I could lay in bed all day long and say, woe is me, and not do anything about it. Or I can say, yep, this situation sucks. What can I get done today? And there were some days that all I could do was go downstairs, eat a bite of food, or maybe not even eat a bite of food, but, hug my wife, kiss my kids, and vice versa sometimes, and then go back upstairs and sleep for another 6 hours, and get your 22 hours of sleep, because that's all the, the chemo radiation and the surgeries, excuse me, what allowed me to do.
Yep. Right. I remember my father-in-law going through it. It was very similar, but he as well didn't take the victim route, and like chose differently. And it sucks sometimes. Like you can, when we go home, me and my wife and spend time with him, like you can tell he's sitting there just like uncomfortable, or like the chemo is kind of messing with him, but he's not like letting it take out of his day. And then he'd go back and sleep for 10, 15 hours, whatever it was, just to, show that he's not letting this thing take him out. So I love that you did that. And it's like in the Marine Corps too, right? There's just like this inherent toughness, right? Like the organization just puts in you, and you're definitely well suited for that whole situation. I love what you're saying there. It's kind of like, don't make excuses, but take advantage of what you have, and really just like the mindset shift you were talking about there is like, it really just like breaks down to gratitude. Really, I think that's what I get from it. Just breaks down to, this stage 3 colon cancer is not the worst thing that could happen to me. There's people that are out there hurting way more, are affected by much more than me. And I'm a tough guy. I'm gonna get through this and then continue to help and give back. So I really like that. And all that with a bias on action, right? Whether it's just walking downstairs to get a bite to eat and hugging your wife and going back up, or whether it's buying your next property. That's so applicable. It reminds me a lot of the story of AJ Osborne. Have you ever AJ Osborne, or ever read any of his stuff? Or he's got a podcast too, but I forget what he had, but he was paralyzed for a while, and he had real estate investments. I think it was self-storage at the time, and that's what he focuses on now, is self-storage. But he lost his job, yada yada yada. He was paralyzed for months, but the self-storage income he had continued to provide for his family. And then he went through that whole like same process. He was just paralyzed, so he had nothing. He couldn't even speak, so he was just there with his thoughts, right? And he's like, inside my head, I was just making the decision to be grateful that I'm still alive, be grateful that my family's still taken care of, and I'm going to make the most of this. And then ended up coming out of it, and he's doing well now. So I love this story. And for the listener, there's so much good stuff. Like, just rewind what Travis just said about the mindset involved in not only getting through cancer, but building a portfolio, just making it through a tough day. Like there's so much there that you can apply that to, that the resiliency and the grit involved in Travis's story. You can really apply that to your own life. So Travis, thank you for sharing that. Cause I know it's, those times aren't easy, and I'm sure reflecting on them is kind of brings back some of the memories, but you made it through, and that's awesome. So with your investments now, kind of to transition, how are you leveraging for these out-of-state investments? How are you leveraging the relationships to have such successful, 15% investments and $500 a month cash flow? I know there's going to be some good tips there.
There is no better asset class for building wealth than real estate. And in most instances, people don't have the time or energy to invest in it on their own. So how do you build wealth with real estate when you lack the time and energy? Leave that to the Growth View Properties. The Growth View team finds, negotiates, and manages multifamily assets for private investors. Their mission is to help investors secure the ultimate asset, which is time, all the while impacting the greater good with their endowment fund that fuels the mission of charitable organizations. Find out more by going to thegrowthview.com. That's view with a VUE.com. Put your money to work so you don't have to at thegrowthview.com.
My relationship, my ability to be an outside investor is exclusively through relationships. I enjoy talking to people. It's something that, real estate binds a lot of people together. I don't know of any organization that allows successful people to talk to desiring successful people and openly share what works and what doesn't work for them. And social media has done a great job in being able to connecting people through that. I mean, look at us. I didn't know you existed, a couple months ago, 3-4 months ago. And then, because of the War Room and because of our mastermind group, it's brought hundreds of us together to be able to, not only do we have, the military bond, regardless of branch, gives you that level of respect, right? And that level of like, okay, this dude's a legit dude, right?
Yep, for sure.
And then it's like, oh, you're doing multifamily. Oh, you've been doing it, and you're in a joint venture, or you're in a group, or you've created this business. Oh, that's awesome. Like, this is what I was thinking. Or, you find people that align with your goals. My goal is to not have a W-2 job when I retire from the Marine Corps. Okay, cool. Well, what does that mean, right? In the military, I'm able to back plan that. I'm able to figure out what my yearly goal is. I'm able to figure out what my monthly goal is, and using key performance indicators, KPIs, I'm able to establish that. And then, okay, I have, just like when you go to the range, right? Do you shoot in the Air Force?
I've shot in the Air Force. There's not a lot of shooting to be done at my desk.
So when you shot, right, if you stare at the target, do you ever hit the target?
No, you gotta look.
No,
I don't know.
you hit
You tell me,
around.
Mr. Marine.
Yeah, you shoot everywhere around the target, right? What has to be in focus to shoot the target? The front sight tip or your RCO, right? You have to stare at that.
Yeah, I just duck hunt, so I just know where to shoot where the duck's going, not where it's at.
Yeah. Got it. So if you stare at the target, because that's your long range goal, you don't hit the target. If you stare at your rear sights, you never hit the target because you're staring at your rear sights and you don't know what the muzzle's doing. But if you stare at the front sight post, I'm dating myself with a front sight post there. But if you're staring at your RCO, right, your reticle and your RCO, your optic, man, you hit the center mass every single time. And that's where, having small actionable goals that you repeat and and you're able to take one at a time and move forward. Well, your big goal, right, the target didn't move. But that front sight post that you can take over and over again to accomplish your goals is what makes you successful over time. And creating that environment because of like bigger pockets and forums in the war room and being, for military millionaire, like those mastermind groups has accelerated the opportunity to grow in different areas of real estate. Like hands down, because of being able to talk and be able to network and to be able to say, hey, like, this is what I'm looking for, real estate agent. Oh, okay, awesome. And you're able to say this is, and you can make your criteria so specific to help you find your niche. Like, hey, I'd like to have, your 10% cash on cash ROI, and I don't want to spend over $200,000. I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath with a basement because I'm trying to invest in Columbus, or Milwaukee or, Indiana, like somewhere that allows you to be like, hey, this is what I want. And there's so much data available that you can find and free software that's scraping it for you to be able to find the information so that you can go out and network and send your introductory letter to the real estate agent and send your introductory letter to your lenders and to the banks and all that stuff. My goodness, like that is success. It's everywhere. It's all around you. And it allows you, because you start talking to more people, you're gaining free education from them. And so that keeps the hunger going. It keeps the excitement going, and your knowledge base continues to grow. And as long as you are providing value, right? Whenever I talk to somebody, my last question to them is like, hey, how can I add value for you? Is there anything that I can do to help you grow and help you be a better version of yourself, or, whatever, but it's all about the value. And that's something I learned from my grandpa is that, he's this little dude, he's like 5'4", 120 pounds, but he works like no other, right? And he's 94. He still goes out to his shed every day to get some. And his entire life has been spent finding value. And a downstream action of value is cash flow, or is it profit, or it's income, right? It's always a financial gain because of the value that you initially create. And that's powerful because you're moving yourself, but you're moving society and your community forward first, and then you're moving yourself forward. And man, that's awesome. That is just awesome. And you learn that you become selfless instead of selfish. And that, what else do you want to do in this world except have that happen?
Yeah. I agree 100% on that last part. And then really that whole piece right there, that your network and your ability to use relationships and just connect with people is so huge. Just take the War Room Mastermind, for example. Like this podcast probably would not be a thing if it wasn't for that group, like pushing me to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And this podcast was definitely an uncomfortable thing to start in the first place. Just hearing myself talk sometimes it gives me anxiety, but it's okay. I'm getting better at it. And you just through that, you grow. Right now, I'm like able to give that value back to people, which is cool. And like you're saying, always asking like, how can you provide value? And it strengthens those relationships so much. That's good stuff. So, man, where do we go from there? I feel like there's so much good stuff packed in there. No, that's really good. So I know you're active on some investments and passive on others. Mm-hmm. So for those of the listeners out there, what would you say are the pros and cons of each passive and active? Like, what have you seen be the pros and cons of each of those?
Well, being active, right? An active investor, you get to have your property, your portfolio builds, so you get the tax depreciation, you get appreciation of the property. You've got your tenant that's paying down your mortgage. And, though that's the physical aspects plus the tax aspects that I think are positive. And then just the fact that you're providing an opportunity for someone to live in something that you had a hand in or contributed to them enjoying, right? And then the passive side of it is that my money's working for me. If I'm at the beach surfing, if I'm on the mats training, or I'm at the gym, or heck, if I'm brushing my teeth, like my money's working for me, and when you understand the laws of money and you understand that, what is that quote? Is it, those who understand interest make it and those who don't pay it?
Yep.
I'm sure that I forget who says it, but it's Googleable.
Somebody said that's a good one. Yeah, make your money work for you.
Yeah, and it's been so fun to be able to take that mentality, and you learn about like Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant. Like I share that all the time because if you understand that, I mean, heck, my 8-year-old knows what that is. Like, oh, ESBNI. Oh,
Yeah.
what do you want to be if you want to acquire wealth?
Yeah, that's good. And I think like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the original book, the first book, really got me into this because it's such a mindset book. But then when I read that one, Cash Flow Quadrant, that like changed even more fundamentally the way I thought about just business and life, like the different quadrants, whether you're on the left, which is employee and self-employed, like getting over to investor and business owner, like that shift there is huge.
Yeah. So we went down we were able to go watch the San Diego Symphony because it was Military Appreciation Night. And it's right there on the harbor. Well, we pull up and here's this huge boat. I mean, I'm talking, it looks like it's like 300 feet long. And the anchor is stainless steel, and the anchor like housing is stainless steel, and it's all polished and beautiful. There's a helicopter on the back of it. And my kids are like, "Whoa, Dad, can we afford a boat like that?" I'm like, "Not on a military wage, we're not." But and so we looked it up, and the boat was $150 million. And I'm like, "Huh, all right, well, for $150 million, kids, we could like go touch it for half a second because that's how much it would cost, probably. That's our version of it." And so that was a beautiful physical example right there of like, all right, this is and that's where I shared with them in the cash flow quadrant, and I'm like, if you're an employee, work for somebody that you're exchanging money for time, is that thing possible? The chances of it being possible are definitely not in your favor as compared to someone who buys businesses, owns businesses, and invests, right? So if you're a BNI, that possibility of owning that $150 million boat is totally possible.
Yeah. That's so true. Whether it's a boat, it's a house, or anything, it's not the object that matters. It's the idea there. And that's so important because if you're just going to work, clocking in, clocking out every day, never going to buy $150 million boat or, a big property on the water or whatever. So yeah, you definitely have to do something more, and that's investing your money. That's spending your time to educate, to learn a little bit so that you can go have your money work for you, so that you're not trading your time for money. Like your money, like what Robert Kiyosaki says, like your money should be working for you while you sleep. Like, just like you were just saying, while you're brushing your teeth, you're on the mats, like your money's out there working, making interest, earning a return. And then you go buy that boat.
Yeah. Yeah. And you got to figure out how, so passively it's, you going back to answering your question, if I'm strictly passive as in private lending, right? Hey, that's great that I'm getting a percent that's better than I can get at the bank. I get it back quicker. I can do it. I can turn over quicker, especially like on financing rehabs or financing flips. But you learn about promissory notes, right? You learn about getting what first position means and understanding like how to hedge yourself, that you have a backstop. You're not just like willy-nilly throwing your money out like, oh yeah, I'm getting 50% of my money. Well, the house just went into foreclosure or the house burned down. Oh, okay, now what do I do? Right? Like there's some backstop, there's stability, and going back to the relationship piece, right? Yeah, you're leveraging your money, but you're also leveraging the trust of the individual that you're going to private lend to, that they're going to like take care of you and they're going to do what they promised to do, right? Promissory note, and that they're going to come through. And you may, while you don't have the pride of ownership with the private lending, but you at least have that money coming over again and again and again. So, using the velocity of money, that money continues to make money. And then, you set aside a money for a flip, right? Well, let's say you're all in for this flip. You come out, you make an extra 10, 15 grand, like whatever the amount is that you do after your ARV, and you sell it. Well, then that same initial money adds to what you added to what you sold it for. Now you've created velocity, right? And now you can scale quicker because you're not doing the whole, well, hey, babe, we just dropped 25% on this $250,000 house. Now we're going to save another 7 years so we can do it again. Yay.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't happen, right? So you can
Yeah, wasn't Einstein said compounding interest is the eighth wonder of the world? So that's basically what you're doing is making a return, taking that money, putting it back to work. It makes a return, take that money, and just recycle money. That's why I love Burr, because you just talked about the velocity of money. With Burr investing, like I just took out all the money that I put into the Burr of a duplex, and now I'm going to take that money and put it in the next deal. And it's the same money that I used on the last deal, but now I have that plus more, and it's just going to continue to roll. And that property's cash flowing like $600 a month because it's 2 units. So now we've got cash flow. I've got more money, and just going to continue to put it to work. So velocity of money is huge. If you learn that, if you learn how to take your money, put it to work, get it back, have more of it, and then go put it to work. I mean, that's the investor right there. That's how you get to the right side of the quadrant.
Yep, exactly. And then using, being a limited partner in a syndication, an LP, that is a wonderful education, right? And from a financial point, you're like, oh, well, I'm getting, this percent. Okay, well, this percent, I could be making more money somewhere else. But the education, the fact that we're holding monthly meetings, the fact that I'm going to be learning about how, they're going to be talking about, or I'm going to be asking about, hey, how are we doing on our budget, right? I'm an engineer in the Marine Corps, so I understand Gantt charts. And I understand, like, hey, I have resources, which is people and equipment, and I have a deadline. So how are we doing on that, right? I can leverage my experience of being an engineer in the Marine Corps and be able to like help them. And they can say, oh yeah, like the budget we had for these 1 bedrooms is this, and we're making it or we're not. And this is what we're doing to fix it. Right. And so during our monthly meetings, we can discuss that. And so again, free knowledge, I'm understanding. Yeah, I'm an LP, and maybe the GPs are not going to care, but because of the company that I invested with and, the syndication that I invested with, like those dudes are solid, they're vetted, they're growing. And, and it's Chris and Ashton with Valkyrie Investment Group, and those dudes are just solid and they're scaling like crazy fast. And they are approaching it the right way. And so because of that relationship, because of being, again, the mastermind group, like it's like, hey, yeah, of course I want to give you my money. Of course I want to leverage the education of what syndications can provide so that I can be like, yep, this is my resume. Yeah, this is my resume. And then down the line, man, who knows? Hey, you want a GP on this, or are you thinking about this? Or hey, I found this deal. Let's GP, like whatever. And then you just create that.
Yeah, because you have that prior experience, even on the LP side. I've heard that same thing from like a CPA, for example. They get into a syndication as an LP because they want to start, doing taxes or investing or whatever on big multifamily stuff. And because of that, they get the reports, they get the payouts, the returns, they get to dig into it. And then they, they're a CPA, so they find, little mistakes or little helpful points. And then the operator's like, man, we're off. We're so glad that we had you because you found this mistake. Now we're correcting that and making the property run more efficiently. And now everybody's making more money just because you put the right people. So like being a limited partner doesn't always mean like sit back and do nothing. It can absolutely, right? For many people, that's why they want to get into syndications. But you can do the same thing and go your route and learn and chalk it up to a learning experience while you're making money. So like you're literally getting paid to learn how to syndicate right now, essentially, and then run a big multifamily property. Do you look at it that way?
I totally do. I totally look at the opportunities to be like, oh yeah, this is another aspect. And, and I hope I've been able to kind of share that I'm not solely stuck in buying small multifamily, or I'm not solely stuck in buying, large multifamily, or I'm not only stuck in single family. Like I know that the train of thought, like, hey, get really, really good at this one thing. But man, I kind of thought I was good at one thing, but that obviously cost me $1 million. So it's fun to be a little more diverse, right? And to just create that variety, because the variety just, one, I think it accelerates your knowledge base. And two, it diversifies you in real estate, right? Because if you're going to diversify yourself in the stock market, my brother is, when I talk to him about real estate, he's like, yeah, but you're not diverse. You got to diversify. You should buy some, your stocks. And I'm like, yeah, I got my TSP. I got it. I put my money in my TSP because that's just another method that I can use. And when the stock market dropped in April, yeah, you're dang right that I changed my TSP to like all C and all S, all large cap and all small cap, because I knew, I'm like, yeah, it's going to come back. I'll take that, and I will not worry about the international and the G fund. But it's fun to see the different ways that you can use your money, because what the actions that I take as far as real estate investing, as long as they're helping me achieve my yearly goals to achieve my long-term goal when I retire from the Marine Corps, man, I can do that. It doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, I've got to get so many doors. I've got to get so many cash flow. That may be true, but Amazon drop shipping is another method to provide a monthly cash flow. Does that mean you don't want to look at it because it's not real estate? Maybe not, but if you know what your goal is and your vision and your goals are clear, then find those avenues that can create that or allow you to achieve your vision and goal to happen. And then that's chalk that up to a win.
I like that. Do you mind sharing your yearly goal and then your retirement goal, which is a couple years down the road?
Yeah. So when I retire from Marine Corps, my goal is to have $7,000 a month in cash flow, whether that's passive, active, or a combination. And then so I just back planned, as every good Marine does, and just figured, hey, I need $1,500 a year until I'm done, and then I'm good. And then I realized once I established that, right, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I need. Well, my first year I accomplished my goal, right? Fantastic. Great job. Yeah. Now, in the start of year 2, well, I'm at zero. So let's figure out how we're going to make that money again, right? So
I like that. And that's so simple. Like, for the listeners, look how simple that was. And now Travis is taking the actions and knocking it out of the park from what I know of him in the mastermind. So think of the end state, have the end in mind, work backwards, yearly goals, and then, you'll have your monthly goals too. And it's just, hey, what do I got to do this month? If this month it's find and close on a property to get $100 a month in cash flow to work towards my yearly goal, awesome. Not only did you just close a property, which is cool, I always love closing properties, but you just took a step towards your long-term goal, which is, for Travis, is $7,000 a month in cash flow by the time he retires from the Marine Corps, so they never has to have a W-2 job again. How cool does that sound? And then he can spend more time reinvesting because his principal is going to grow. He can go apply that to do more private lending or do more flips or whatever he wants to do at that time. So I'm sure at that, how many years down the road is that? Like 4 years for you?
I'm looking, so what I base it on the surveillance, right? So I've got 5 years surveillance. That's going to put me at like 22, 21-ish years, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I hit 20 and 23. Well, because I don't it would be foolish of me, in my opinion, to try to let the VA, shout out to how good the VA is of trying to deal with the, the surveillance process. So that's my goal. And if that comes and goes, like 6 years happens and I'm like, no, I'm feeling great. The Marine Corps is still awesome. I still get to be a platoon commander. Let's roll, roll on. But that's my 5-year plan. Whether it was whether it was to stay in the Marine Corps, or whether it's to get out of the Marine Corps tomorrow, whatever, my 5-year plan is still that. My 6-year plan is still that $7K a month. And then I realized, I'm like, well, how many doors, people have asked, like, how many doors is that going to be? I don't really care. Right.
Yeah. That means I like that. Yeah. People are so fixated on, I have this many doors. I have that many doors. Like that number of doors is nothing. Like if I have 11 units, but if my 11 units are making me $100 a month, like I need to go get a lot more units. Right. Yeah. So that, like, I try to look at the cash flow and at my goals down the road, just the same, right? Like, don't worry about the wrong metrics. Like, focus on your goals, what's important to you, and don't worry about like the outside stuff. And I love that because when you get there in 5 years, I'm sure you're gonna hit that $7,000 a month, and then you're gonna have more time and just be able to scale it. You'll probably go, exponential at that point, and you already are. So that's all.
Yeah. And I realized too, that if I get in year 3, year 4, year 5, and I pass, it's not going to be like, oh, hey, I made my goal of 7. Okay. No, you're not going to do that. Right. You're going to be like, oh, well, okay, fine. Right. But then it comes to a point, like, I think when I was speaking of AJ Osborne, when he was on the Bigger Pockets podcast, he's like, yeah, I just raised the rent in January. Nobody's going to move their stuff out in January. I'm like, All right. I don't know if that's, I personally wouldn't do that, but whatever. Yeah. But it allows you to, it keeps everything in perspective, because if you keep scaling and keep providing that value and keep building relationships, and you keep just you being you, and the tenets you learn in the military, and the person that you are, and the morals and ethics that you decide that you're going to eventually be a person of society, right? Whether you do 4 years or 40 in the military branch, you are going to be a civilian again in your community, hooking and jabbing. And if that means I have the opportunity to, like, again, going back to that downstream action of creating value, if I'm constantly creating value either in my community or some other community as an out-of-state investor, and I achieve more financial gain because of it, okay, awesome, right? And if that's not 7, if it's 10, if it's 15 or whatever, and hey, let's say in 7 years I lose everything again. Oh, okay, well, fine, let's just start over again, right?
There you go. But you won't, because this time you'll be safely leveraged and learn all the tips from the last downfall. So that's awesome. No, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I'm gonna have to rewind and listen to that, because that was really good. I think, man, the goals you set are so important for what you work towards and what you achieve. If you never have your goals and don't know what you're working towards, how are you ever going to achieve what you really want to achieve? Like, you have to put it down on paper and start working towards it. So that's really good stuff. Yeah. So, Travis, let's transition now to the Fortune 5, the questions at the end I ask every guest. So just to kick it off, what is the biggest thing that has contributed towards your success?
Hands down the war room, hands down the mastermind group. Like, just absolute beasts of individuals that are crushing it in every aspect of real estate and of life, like leadership, self-reliance, positive thinking, you name it, our mastermind group is crushing it in those areas. Like, man, there's just so many good areas. Like, if you want anything positive, whether it's, yourself, your family, your community, your real estate investing, like all of that, our mastermind group for sure.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think, so if the listeners are military, I think you can email, and you might know this, wrmastermind@gmail.com, and to get information. I think that's the email. If they never respond to you, then it was wrong. But I know, like, if you're not in the military, I know one of the guys in our mastermind, Jay Helms, runs the W2 Capitalist Mastermind, and you don't have to be military. You can get in that. And it's very, very similar, has accountability checks, and you meet with, your group every week. So yeah, masterminds are huge. Like, if you want to achieve anything, like if you want to be the best baker in the world, like, get together with other better bakers than you to learn their tips. And like all of us, we want to be more successful real estate investors. And there's people that go from, not having any properties, or one of my buddies that I played football with just got into the academy, or just got into the war room. He just closed his first property. And then we got guys like Jeremy Hans with like hundreds and hundreds of units. So like, we have the full span. We all learn from each other. And that's like in any mastermind. So definitely, if you're thinking about growing and like getting serious about it, definitely check out a mastermind. That's a great tip there. So Travis, what's been your biggest mistake so far that's turned into a learning lesson?
I think my biggest mistake so far was someone say like, oh, getting cancer. Hell no, getting cancer was my biggest mistake so far. Man, I honestly, I wish I could say, like, as of late, at starting my real estate investing journey again, I don't think there's really not mistakes. If anything, it just goes back to, 20 years ago when I was investing, of just being too focused on the one thing and not having my situation awareness, knowing what my left and rights are doing.
Having your blinders on.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. That's good. What's your favorite real estate book or business book?
My favorite business book is 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
I've never read that one. Who wrote that? Do you know?
Yeah, I want to say John C. Maxwell comes to mind, but it's not him.
It's like a leadership book, 5 Dysfunctions of the Team.
I forget. It's written in a parable form. It's so good I don't even know the author. Right? That's how.
Just blew your
That's
mind.
A shameless plug right there. This is the best book ever. Written by? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. 5 Dysfunctions of the Team. I'll have to check that one out. What do you like to do outside of real estate? I heard surfing in there. I definitely got
Yeah.
you.
My favorite real estate book. I enjoy The Richest Man in Babylon. I think that is such a fun book to read, and there's so many nuggets in there that you just like rereading. You're like,
I've still never actually read that book. I've heard it many, many times. I need to read it.
It's stupid easy to read, man. It's a coffee table read. It is small, simple, but it is, and it's another fable, right? It's just written in a story form, but there is so much to understand about that.
Yeah.
What I like to do outside of when I'm not looking at property or talking to somebody, yes, surf and jiu-jitsu. I don't know what else really you need to do, but those two things,
two things I want to try: surfing and jiu-jitsu. So
they keep you humble, man.
Yeah.
Both of those things. The mat is a beautiful teacher. You learn more about you. You learn more about yourself on jiu-jitsu mats than you do taking a disc test, or at least the disc test will, or Myers-Briggs or whatever those different personality tests. They'll at least confirm what you figured out on the mats if you just keep training.
Yeah.
And it's that's a whole nother podcast of philosophical and the what goes on the jiu-jitsu mats.
Yeah, I like that. I'm gonna have to give it a try sometime. So Travis, here we are at the end. Where can people find more about you or connect with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn and I'm on Instagram. Travis Hill 1310 is my Instagram, and then of course Travis Hill on LinkedIn. I'm working on a website to kind of establish who Travis is and our family LLC, right? Our family company of Six Hill Holdings, and bringing everybody along. My 10-year-old son's like, Dad, if I don't work for somebody and I just like invest in stuff, I'll be able to like do what I want to do. I'm like, yes, son, that's how that works. He's like, all right, I don't want to work for somebody. I'm like, all right, let's figure out what you want to do. And my 12-year-old has an internship at the local bakery because she loves to bake. And so she goes there an hour a week and just is like, I want to learn how to do this. And so we've talked about ways that she can save up money to go and invest in the business and, have her money work for her. And it's
own the bakery.
Yeah. That's what she wants. She wants to own her own bakery, do cakes and cupcakes. And so now she goes there and she learns how to make fondant better and roll it out and do different things. So
I love it. I wish I could I wish you could invest in people, because I feel like your kids are like the startups that are going to go on to do great things. And I just want to put money on them right now, because that's awesome. That teaching is certainly going to pay off.
But it's working on the website to kind of establish us. So now that'll be forthcoming. But yeah, Instagram and LinkedIn for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely check Travis out. And thanks again for sharing. This has been an awesome episode. So much good stuff in there, from mindset to losing $1 million to making it back and beating cancer. And man, awesome stuff. Travis, thank you for sharing. And I guess I'll see you back in the war room.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Blake. So much fun. Appreciate it, buddy.
See ya.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you like the show, if you found value in it, please go to iTunes and leave a rating and review. And if you want to check out more on your multifamily journey, go to multifamilyjourney.com, where you can get free resources to start your journey and figure out your path. That's multifamilyjourney.com. But more importantly, go take action today towards your financial future. See you next time.